Bruno Mars there, and a little bit of George Michael before that, just to kick off the show today. So, as I said in the opening bit, I've been joined by Colin and Jake from local charity Computers for Kids. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming in today. So, before we sort of leap into what it is that you do you want to just introduce yourself, say a little bit about who you are?
Yes, sure. I'm Colin Hill. I'm the founder and CEO of Computers for Kids. Founded it in January 2021 and just built it up from there.
And my name's Jake. I am the creative digital media director for Computers for Kids. And I used to live next door to Colin and became involved.
So that's how you two met, was it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, we met him keeping me up till 2 o'clock in the morning with his music.
Yes, so we were just talking off air before it came on that Jake's a musician. So we were just having a little chat about that beforehand. So tell us a little bit about Computers for Kids, and particularly how did it all begin? Because I asked that as a question because last week on the show we had somebody who was talking about a charity, but they absolutely didn't set out to found a charity. They just sort of started off doing almost like a sort of bit of a sponsored thing, and it became a charity. What was your experience?
Very similar, to be honest. So I think we all remember the lockdowns, and it was in the last lockdown in 2021. It was in January.
Yeah.
My partner at the time was moaning because I had two computers that I'd bought to build one. So I had two spare. And she's like, "I've just taken up so much space, take me down a tip." And I'm really against using the tip. But I did hear on the news, obviously, there's a lot of kids at the time struggling with access to digital technology for their schoolwork, especially with all the kids working from home at the time.
Yeah.
So I just popped them onto Facebook locally in Hayward Heath to just offer them out to local kids. By next morning, I had over 300 requests. I had about 150 people on the other opposite end of that offering me their computers to see if I could rehouse those. And it just grew from there, to be honest. No planning in it whatsoever, and it just snowballed.
So literally from that sort of post on Facebook, so people started getting in touch with you and saying, "Can you pass my computers on?"
That's correct. And within 2 weeks, we had an entire setup, a full team working.
Oh my goodness.
And within the first 6 months, we'd already helped about 3,000 individual children. And today, we now support around 140 different organisations, and combining that with the different kind of things that we do, it does support around, either directly or indirectly, 90,000 children at the moment. And by the end of this year, I want to get up to 1 million.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And so I suppose the question that's going to be on everyone's minds is security.
Yeah.
So, one of the reasons why Colin's come on today, other than this is a really interesting story, is that I first met Colin when I was doing my training with Paul Tamley, who does the mid-morning show, and Colin was in as his guest. And since then, I've passed on. It really prompted me to look around the house, and in those drawers where you have old tablets that the kids don't use, and old phones and laptops that just you don't use, and some that you've inherited, you're not even sure where they came from and what the password is to get into them. And so I've then passed them on to you. But anyone who's listening, how could they be sure that my holiday photos that, for all I know, are still on there, that my son took on his little tablet, how do they know that those are all gone?
Right, yeah. What we do with that, I mean, as you're aware yourself, like you say, you have donated quite a few devices to us. We've actually got a desktop here to take today. Now we don't take your passwords, so we can't access your computer anyway. So we can't see anything that's on there. What we do is we get into the office, and then we'll do what's called a DoD short wipe, which is a military defence wipe, basically.
Right.
And that wipes the initial data, then it overlays it with 3 layers of zeros and ones to ensure nothing can be recovered.
Right.
The mistake a lot of people make is they'll do the factory reset, which you get with Windows as standard, and all that does is it will partition off that data, so it can't be accessed. But any 16-year-old or even 14-year-old can go online, get a free recovery software to recover that. So when it comes to passing these things on, you really need to make sure you are wiping them correctly. Now, not every device will wipe. Some hard drives will fail on a wipe. With those, you need to destroy them. Put a hammer through them, shred them, but you need to make sure they are destroyed, just to safeguard people's data.
Right. So all of the information on the computers is that it's like this military grade
Oh,
wipe.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, completely gone. So
Right.
that it's not accessed by, it cannot be accessed by anyone.
Right. Okay. So what about you, Jake? How did you get involved?
Wow. So I obviously moved in next door to Colin, and I kept seeing computers outside his house.
Right.
I would walk past. It was summertime, and there was computers all inside his house. And I approached him and asked him, what is going on? Why is there so many computers, tablets, devices outside your house? And he explained to me about computers for kids. And we sat down together that night and we spoke essentially how, with my skills being a videographer and a designer, how I can benefit computers for kids. And we came to the conclusion that we would make a documentary. Which we did, and it performed quite well on YouTube. And yeah, since then it's been one of those things where I started it and I don't want to stop, because it's that feeling of helping people.
Right.
When I turn up at a family's door or at a school, and I see so many happy faces when I'm handing over the laptop or a tablet to children who desperately need it. It just kind of fills my heart with joy.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's exactly the reason why Colin started it in the first place, to help people.
That's correct. I actually remember the very first two people I helped, actually. The ones that I put onto Facebook, like I said, there was actually went to a lady in Billingshurst. She had 5 kids. I remember her turning up to grab the first day. And I remember one of her children was in the back of the car, and he had a respirator pack on because he couldn't breathe normally on his own. So obviously put a lot of restrictions in place in terms of getting close to the kids, because we don't want, obviously COVID, we don't want them catching it. And she came back for more to help the rest of the kids a couple of weeks later when I had more. And then I remember walking up to Franklin's Village in Hayward Heath, actually, with a couple of laptops in a bag for a woman, and I remember the difference it made just in the children's faces. And since then, I was hooked myself. So you're quite right with that.
Yeah. That and it's interesting, that seems to be a common thread from talking to people when they're involved in volunteering and charity work, that the well-being element, which we'll come on to in a minute, is huge. And I mean, as you know, I used to be a deputy head of a school in Crawley, and I remember at COVID, during the COVID times and the remote learning, it was so difficult for so many people, because I remember families of 4 children, and they're all trying to do home learning from mum's one phone. And even when we were able to get computers for them, they didn't have access to Wi-Fi, and they didn't have, what is there anything that can be done? I don't know if that's something that you do, support people if they don't have access to Wi-Fi.
We did for a period. I think it's still running, but I'll have to check with BT, because we did partner with BT, who provided us with a load of vouchers for families that were struggling with internet connectivity. So things like not being able to afford the internet, really low signal in the area. And basically it runs off the backup system for BT. Right. So when you go around, if you're on your mobile phone, if you're looking at local networks, you usually see that little BT Wi-Fi one.
Yes.
That covers about 75% of the UK.
Right.
And it patches into that. So it's just a username and a code that we'd give over, and they'd be able to access that. But I do need to check with BT with that. I know they did stop it, but I'm not sure if that's going to affect the vouchers we still have. But I can speak with some of the other providers to see if there are any other things available.
Or if anyone's listening who works for a major provider, they could perhaps get in touch. Because I think that's the thing, I know that screens in themselves, we've talked on this show about the mental health implications of always being attached to a screen, but they are almost impossible to live without, because for children today, their homework, their learning, but they're also their social life, their friendships, the way they organise. If I were to say to my 14-year-old, he wouldn't dream of just going round to someone's house like we did, just ringing on a doorbell and saying, would so-and-so like to come out to play? They just, it doesn't like, happen anymore. Mum, what, are you mad? So that you're providing more than just a device.
It's essentially, we're providing a social life.
Yeah.
We're also giving children the tools and the skill set to progress in life in this ever advancing technological world that we're living in. And that's something that we're proud of. And like you say, back in our day, we would go round, knock on our friend's house and ask if they could come out and play.
Yeah.
Kids don't do that. They send messages on WhatsApp or wherever. And they talk a lot on social media as well. Even my friends, we all talk on social media. I don't remember the last time I saw my best friend, but I speak to him every day on social media. And it's the same, for everyone. And it's just giving kids a fair chance.
Yeah.
With everything.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, it's not just for children. Though. When as they get older, as we all probably know, especially as adults, if you want to make a doctor's appointment, if you're looking for a job, if you need to find, if you need government support, so universal credit or anything like that, it's all done online now.
Yep. Even banking.
Yes.
My grandparents, they struggle with their PC, which they've got as they've got older. And all their banking has been moved online, and the banks have been closed, are being closed, and they don't know what to do. So other family members have had to step in and manage their accounts for them, and it's so sad. But also, I guess it's just the world that we live in now.
So for children and households, it's so much more than just something to play games on. It's this sort of essential part of life. Absolutely fascinating. We're just going to go to another song, and then after that we'll come back and talk more about what you do, and also the well-being element of it and how it's impacted upon your well-being. So we'll be back just after this to talk a bit more to Colin and Jake.
The hits of yesterday and today on your radio. It's got to be your station, Meridian FM.
As we fall deeper into our cost of living crisis, more and more children are falling behind in their schoolwork. As the nights get darker earlier, children are using laptops more and more to stay in contact with their friends and families, all while having some fun playing games and completing their schoolwork. We ask you to donate any laptops you may have laying around and taking up space to Computers for Kids. We accept any laptops, yes, even from the 1990s. We ask for donations so that we can continue to provide families with the tools that they need to succeed. Please get in contact with us by using our easy-to-follow device donation forms on our website, www.computersforkids.org.uk, and together we'll make sure that every child has equal opportunities, one device at a time.
Meridian FM.
Welcome back. It's just gone 2:30 and you're listening to 107 Meridian FM. This is Wellbeing Weekly with me, Carrie Overton, and I'm joined in this hour with Colin and Jake from Computers for Kids, and we've just been hearing about how they got involved in this amazing charity. And as this story seems to be rolling out, just from putting a couple of computers to get rid of because his partner was moaning about him, another charity is born. So one of the things we're going to be talking about in the second hour of this show is about anxiety. And I know I've asked if it's okay to ask you this, whether either of you have ever experienced anxiety.
Yeah, I have, definitely.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, with myself, it stemmed from my childhood. I was abused as a child.
Right.
Had a alcoholic mother. My dad was absent. He was at sea. And I basically had to raise my own brothers and sisters. It was a big household. And by the time I got to my adulthood, I dropped out of school at 15. I was suffering with severe depression. Very, very much had major anger issues. So I ended up going to a school called Farney Close, which is actually based just outside of Overton, which absolutely, if it weren't for them, I'd be a different person today. I'd have probably ended up in prison. But that day really helped me get my start in life. But sadly, I did drop out, so I didn't get my GCSEs. First, I just threw myself into usual things. Started working, and then I ended up doing drugs, drinking too much. and getting a bit lost, as you do when you're younger sometimes. But as I got older, I started to find coping mechanisms. First one was writing poetry,
Wow.
which I found really helped me deal with my own inner demons and things that I'd struggle with on an emotional level, because I'm really bad at showing my emotions normally and dealing with them and talking about them. But actually, I found putting pen to paper, I found that as a really good way of getting it out and putting it in a visual context that could help me deal with it. But that just helped me control my anger in a very good way. But then I was still left with the anxiety, and that lasted for years. And regardless of what I did in my career or stuff like that, I was always anxious about life. But since I started Computers for Kids and being able to help others and seeing the impact that it has, I find the confidence that gives me has actually really basically got rid of my anxiety.
Wow.
I think the most anxious moment I had more recently, which Jake can probably attest to because he kicked my butt out of it, to be honest, is about 7 months ago. I went into a severe depression. About a year after I broke up with my ex, I then got a child on the way. I was looking at losing my home because I'd put all everything into Computers for Kids, all my savings, everything's invested, and I just didn't know where to turn in life. It was like I was taking on different jobs and trying to run Computers for Kids at the same time, and
you weren't sleeping?
No, wasn't sleeping at all. And then I found every time I'd take on a job, they'd have a problem. Because of me being a CEO of Computers for Kids, it'd always clash. And there's no way I could let it go. I couldn't stop. I'd already started something. It's too late to turn back. And it's helping too many people to justify me keeping a job for it. So I quit.
You quit your paid working job.
Yeah, I don't work for any company now except for Computers for Kids. How I get by myself now is I do some self-employed work as an IT and business management consultant. That pays my own bills. And then majority of my effort goes into running Computers for Kids and building it up.
Wow. And yet the impact of that on your well-being.
I earn a lot less, but I've never been happier.
Wow.
It gives me the time to spend with my son. He's 10 weeks old on Saturday.
Gosh.
So
that's amazing. That's a really inspiring story. Thank you, Colin, for being so honest. I really appreciate that, because I think for a lot of people listening, and from my own experience with anxiety, which I'll talk about a bit later, but knowing that you can get better from it and seeing and hearing from people who have overcome anxiety and manage it, and for you to sort of say it's sort of cured it, that's really inspiring. That's a really helpful message. And what about you, Jake? What's been your experience?
So my experience, I have, I guess, suffered from anxiety, and it's only been a recent thing, and it's been the inability to leave my house almost. Right. And for me, the worst thing, and I've only just realised this a couple of months ago, is looking back and looking at myself and thinking, you used to be so confident. You used to be able to do everything. And, you know, not necessarily at the moment, but it comes in phases. And I won't leave my house. I don't want to leave my house. I don't want to do anything. I want to, play video games or do everything that I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And I guess it's with Computers for Kids, that's really the thing that brought me out of it, because I have to go out. I have to help people. And I do think as well, working from home during the pandemic and after the pandemic, because my office never really went back to normal. That really affected me, because I'm locked. Well, I'm not locked, but I'm by myself in my house with my dog, and the only thing that I wanted or needed to do was take my dog for a walk. to make sure that he was happy. That for me, the worst thing for me at the moment is looking back and thinking, why am I not that person anymore?
Yeah.
Because everyone changes. Everyone goes through changes. I'm not 18 anymore. I'm much older. So it's, I just urge people not to look back and think, why am I not that person anymore? Because it changes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was trying to talk to one of my adult children about this and saying life is it's like going through a series of rooms, and sometimes you are pushed into the next room. Sometimes you make an active choice to go into the next room, and sometimes you just sort of find yourself in the next room and you're not really sure how you got there or whether you like it. But the one thing that's always guaranteed, there'll be another room. Something will change, something will come along. And I really appreciate both of you, your honesty, because I know that for men, there's a lot of a movement to get men to talk about mental health, because I think men are, it sounds like a generalisation, but the research backs it up, are less likely than women to talk about mental health.
That's very true. That's why I went into poetry. I don't really talk about what gets me. And I don't cry even in front of people.
Well, I'm the same. I write songs, and that's how I get everything out. It's on paper. It's in music, and to me, people are listening to the music that I'm writing or reading the lyrics that I'm writing. That's great, but it's my emotions, and they're all out. They're all out there, and it's just some form of release for me.
Yeah, and that release is so important to find. And it's interesting, Jake, that you mentioned about the pandemic, because I think that was such a significant turning point that for so many people. And I was listening to a psychotherapist talking on a podcast the other day, and he was talking about PTSD, post-pandemic stress disorder. And he said he, at the beginning of the pandemic, predicted that lots of people would have this, because actually this huge change, and so many people are going, oh, well, it's all back to normal now. But for a lot of people, it's really not back to normal. Something, I know a number of people who, like you were saying, Jake, lived on their own or with a pet or something else, and their isolation, that change from I'm going to work every day, or even if they worked from home but you could pop into the office, things were normal, it's really affected them. And I know people whose hobbies, they were furloughed, and their hobbies, which were sporting activities or choirs or whatever, they couldn't do any of those things. Suddenly all of your outlets for your social life and everything have been removed, and your work and all the rest of it. So I think that's really significant.
Yeah, definitely. And it felt very repetitive over lockdown. Yeah. I would finish work in my house, sit down, watch TV, and that would be my life for 2 years, I think it was.
I found the same in lockdown. Even though I was with my partner Laura at the time, I found it exactly the same. I wasn't furloughed, she was, but I was working from home. I was the head of a couple of departments. And exactly the same. I'd work in the evening, nothing to do. I'd run out of things to watch on Netflix. YouTube would be decimated, and it was like I can't go on holidays anymore. I can't go to the pub. I can't do anything that I would normally do.
And that was the conversation I remember with all of my friends. Everyone was like, "What are you watching?" Because you were desperate for a recommendation of a good box set that you could sort of sit and get into and pass some hours
and watch it in a whole night.
Well, absolutely.
The other problem with that is they weren't filming anything during lockdown. So there's nothing new.
Running out of things, absolutely.
I think I caught up on everything.
Yeah, well, we started Line of Duty from the beginning of series 1 again, just because we thought by the time we get through it, maybe they'll have filmed a new one and we'll remember what's happened. So one of the things I always do is ask guests to choose a piece of music that just sort of makes them feel good or for a reason. So, Jake, why have you chosen this, and can you introduce it?
Yeah, of course. So I chose this song because it makes me feel happy, and I guess it's got some undertone message to it, where sit down and talk about how you feel. And it's Sit Down by James.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jake.
When the music's this good, it's got to be Meridian FM.
I myself have known what it was like to I've been excluded from things that would have benefited me educationally when I was younger and would have given me a better start in life. It's why I'm passionate about it, and I believe I do have the solution to the problem as a whole in the UK, not just locally. Through putting your trust in us, passing on your old IT equipment, we can help many children. Now, unfortunately, we can't get funding from government. The public purse has been shrunk by the coronavirus pandemic, among other things. Unfortunately, that does have massive impact on us being able to get that initial funding. To be able to get the kickstart we really need to be able to help those thousands of children, we need your support. Making people aware of who we are and what the issue is and how it can be solved would be a huge benefit for us. So I'd ask you to put your support behind us. I personally believe that it's vitally important that the older generation enable the younger generation with digital technology, because the economy is moving ever forward and so is technology, and as we progress it's going to be more and more online. To be able to get a job, to be able to study, we owe it to the next generation. We have an obligation to be able to arm them and enable them to face the challenges of their own futures. A lot of that is caused by ourselves, the older generation, such as the environmental disaster we are currently facing. Not just with the environment, but also the digital inequality across our country. You've got millions of people unable to take part in the online economy. That's only affecting our own economy. So organisations like the Repair Cafe and our own Computers for Kids that are trying to take a lead in recycling. The reason for this is it's good for our planet. Every year, millions of tonnes goes into landfill. Hundreds of tonnes of that is electronic waste. And it's through supporting organisations like ours that you can help reduce this waste and have a great impact on the planet, not only the planet, the local community and local environment. This is important for wildlife to recover. It's important for our green areas, such as I'm walking through today. It's only by taking personal responsibility about the way we waste our old products that we can help recover the environment. Remember, every time you throw something out, it takes years for it to degrade. So pass them to organisations like the Repair Cafe and Computers for Kids. Let us reuse them, let us make them able to be reused by others. You're only going to enhance someone's life and enhance the environment. And you can't get a better thing than that. It's with the support of the community that Computers for Kids is where it is today, and it is with their continued support that we'll continue to grow and help many thousands more children as we have already. We need a bigger location. Now, we can't get funding from central government easily due to the shrinking of the public coin purse due to the pandemic and the after effects of that. So we'd like to ask the business sector and the local community to support us. You can do this by going to our GoFundMe page, which you can find online, also link on our website, computersforkids.org.uk. You can find it through our Facebook page. Also step forward, volunteer with us. We always need volunteers. The more volunteers we have in local areas, the more children we can assist quickly, the better able we are to find out where those children are. Not just that, we'd ask local companies to show their support through sponsorships, either through cash donations or through allowing us use of your specialists, or even just by sharing the good work that we do, or giving us your old IT equipment, which then can be refurbished and reused by children in your local areas. Just remember, every child in this country has a role to play in the future. What part do you want to play in helping them reach that role? Do you want to be someone that hinders them, or do you want to be someone that enables them? Because I'd rather enable them, and I hope you do too.
Welcome back to Meridian FM. You're listening to Wellbeing Weekly. It's just gone 2:45, and so I'm still joined by with Colin and Jake from Computers for Kids. And guys, we were just sort of chatting while that song was on, which we really enjoyed. We were all agreeing it reminded us of student unions. And sitting down on beery floors.
Oh, yeah.
But actually how important it was that to have, I was just expressing my appreciation of having two men coming on talking about mental health, and how we were saying about, the suicide rates amongst men and young men is really quite shocking, and how important it is for men to have somebody to talk to and to be honest. And so hopefully people hearing you talk will...
Let's be honest, at the moment, I think it's more important now more than ever that men do talk, especially with the cost of living crisis. Typically men, they like to be out to be a provider. And I don't think I know many people that can easily get through what's happening at the moment, and men are struggling a lot, so it will increase suicide rates among men definitely, because they just feel like a failure to their children, to their wives. I know for me, I have 3 friends that I talk to. Depending on what's affecting me, depends on which of those friends I talk to. But sometimes your friends aren't the best help. Sometimes you need a professional as well.
Absolutely. I think there's a time and a place, isn't it, when if things are getting, in the first instance, that being able to talk to somebody, a friend, somebody who you trust is important. But as you say, if it goes to the point where it's affecting every aspect of your life, that is when you need professional help.
Yeah, definitely, because it'll damage those friendships as well.
Yeah,
because you put too much on them.
Yeah, definitely. I also think as well, you as a man, as anyone, as a human, we shouldn't expect people to realise that we're not doing too well. We need to be the ones who reach out. If you're not feeling very well, reach out and talk to your friends, or don't be afraid of what they're going to think of you, because they're your friends for a reason.
Absolutely, and I think the more I do this job, I'm a life coach, I'm a wellbeing coach, and have moved out of education, having spent years coaching within education. But I don't think I've spoken to anybody, if I have, it's a very few people who have experienced no issues with their mental health at all in their life, anxiety, or can't understand it. They have some sort of knowledge or experience of anxiety or worry or stress or anything like that. So most people, were you to share the sort of things you're worried about, will have some acknowledgement or recognition of that.
They would do, definitely. I think with a few that you mentioned there that might not have that, I don't think it's that they haven't felt it, is they just don't realise it, because quite often we suffer and we don't know what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So thank you guys for your honesty. I really, really appreciate it. So just to sort of conclude, if people... So there's people going to be listening. There are going to be people who maybe can't afford computers or for their children. Can they get in touch with you?
They can do. Best way to do that, if you're an individual, is go to our website, www.computersforkids.org.uk.
Is that for FOR or F with a 4?
FOR.
FOR, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. It comes up the first, or if you just type in computers for kids on Google, it'll come up as a top listing.
Okay.
Or go onto our Facebook page. And on there, there's a request a device page. Just pop in a request, we'll receive it, and then you'll be popped onto a waiting list, and then we'll contact you as soon as we have something available for you. If you're a school, and you want to put in a request, easiest way to do that is to contact me directly. You can do that by emailing me at colin.hill@computersforkids.org.uk, or you can call me directly on my mobile, which is 07377 198 934.
Perfect.
Everyone prank call him.
No, don't. I get enough of those.
And what if somebody's listening and they work for a company who have loads of computers sitting in cupboards that they're not using or anything else?
Definitely contact us. Saying that, funnily enough, we got Tom, one of our volunteers. He's down in Lancing at this very minute at a company who's just donated 40 desktops. On top of that, they've donated about 2 car lights to stationery. Some of that we'd probably use ourselves, but a lot of that will go into schools. Now, it's not just computers we help with. I know we introduced as Computers for Kids. That's how we initially set up, but we are registered as Community for Kids, which is a CIC. We've done that to future-proof it because we want to help in other areas. Recently, we were contacted by the Doosan Facilities Management Team, which are run by ISS. They're based in Crawley, Manor Royal, and they approached me with a load of furniture, very high-end furniture, very good quality office furniture. I think it had a second-hand value of about £500,000.
Wow.
And we, since November, have been distributing that throughout Sussex and Surrey to different schools, including
my old school. I got straight in there.
yeah, Milton Mount got quite a lot out of there. Then local to East Grinstead, you had Imberhorn.
Mm-hmm.
They came and took a load, and then you got Sussex Loan and Trust. They took around £100,000 worth of furniture for multiples of their schools. That's just finished. But if you're a company and you're doing a refurbishment or you're closing down, if you've got a couple of weeks where you need to get rid of any of your furniture, please contact us. If it's of the right quality, we'll ensure it goes to schools and charities and even local ambulance services.
Fantastic. And what about if schools, charities or local ambulance services are listening? So somebody who works in one of those organisations and think, oh my gosh, we want to register with you as being interested in receiving furniture. Can they do that?
They can do, yes.
Yeah.
It's actually something we've been discussing very recently, especially around the furniture side, is to start a kind of interested list, like you say, or waiting list. And then as companies come on board to let us know they want to get rid of the furniture, we can then send out a mass email to all those schools and organisations about how they can go about getting it.
Okay. And finally, if people are sitting, because it's not just, as you said, not just computers, old phones, old tablets, laptops, any of that. If people have those, and let's be honest, most of us do, sitting around somewhere in drawers, certainly old phones, how do people get them to you?
On our website, we've tried to make it as simple and easy as possible. So on our website, at the top, you've got a request help form, or you've got a donate a device form, which people can very easily fill out. It gets sent directly to either myself or Colin, and we will then arrange pickup or delivery of devices. It depends. Requesting a device at the moment, we seem to have a bit of a waiting list because we're waiting for the donations to come in, but luckily we're getting 40 desktops coming in. And also we've got a volunteer, if you wanted to become a volunteer for us as well, we've got an easy to fill out form, and you organise a call back and we can talk to them that way.
So are you looking for volunteers?
We are very much so looking for volunteers.
So what sort of things, if people sign up, what sort of things could people expect to do to help you?
Right, okay, yeah, you don't have to be tech savvy, which is Darren, who's actually with us today, can actually attest to. Darren Cridge, he owns Darren Cridge Real Estate. He's also a COO for Computers for Kids. When he approached me, he's like, I really want to get involved, but I don't know what to do. I've got no idea around technology, etc., etc. He came on board and he's been delivering computers to schools. He's when my son was born, when we got the go ahead with the furniture, it nearly actually stopped that going out. He stepped up, and he helped organise all the schools getting in to get that. So with volunteers, there's multiple things we could do. If you just want to share stuff that we do, we need people that are always willing to speak to people online. If you just want to pick up computers for us from people that are donating, drop it off to our office. And just as importantly, if you're an IT engineer or you tech savvy in any kind of way, we could definitely use you. We have just expanded into Surrey, so we will be looking for volunteers up in Surrey. We've got a few in the local area in East Grinstead as well. We have got
Simon.
Yeah, we've got Simon, whose company the company that he works for, which is based over in Sevenoaks, actually just donated a load of computers, and they've offered another 40 the first quarter this year. But that's been due to him being a volunteer of ours, and he worked for this amazing company over in Sevenoaks, and he spoke to him about us. And I think that's...
So it sounds like there's lots of ways people can get involved with you.
just quickly. So if you wanted to find out more about Computers for Kids, you can go onto the website. We've got a documentary that we've made. So in the documentary, it explains everything that you need to know about becoming a volunteer, requesting a device, donating a device, and how to get in touch with us. And that's on the homepage of our website.
So that's computersforkids.org.uk.
Yes.
Correct, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for coming in, Jake and Colin. I really, really appreciate it. It's been fascinating to talk to you. A really inspiring story about how you've set up this charity, and it's evolved from 2 computers on Facebook to all of this and things going out to schools. So thank you. Really appreciate it. Do get in touch with them. Do think about volunteering.